Hello, I'm Kathie Li from the University of Louisiana at Lafayette. I'll be presenting on non-judging inner experiences, buffering the impact of childhood adversity on somatic symptoms. So non-judging inner experiences are a dimension of mindfulness. And mindfulness is the practice of present moment focus and non-judgmental awareness. Other dimensions of mindfulness include observing, acting, and describing with active awareness, as well as non-reactivity to inner experiences, and as we previously mentioned, non-judging of inner experiences. So greater levels of trait mindfulness and mindfulness interventions have to reduce levels of distress, depression, anxiety, and stress. Adverse childhood experiences are potentially traumatic events that occur before an individual's 18th birthday. Research has shown that adverse childhood experiences, or ACEs, as they're also called, are associated with increased risk for negative physical and mental health outcomes, as well as somatic symptomology. So this is a problem in that ACEs are associated with negative health outcomes, and that comes at a cost to both individuals as well as to larger public health. So there's a need to address ACEs and the associations that ACEs have as risk factors for negative health outcomes. Dimensions of mindfulness may mitigate or serve as a buffer for the negative somatic and psychological symptoms that are associated with ACEs. Therefore, it's important to identify whether dimensions of mindfulness can be potential moderators to somatic symptoms and negative health outcomes. So for our method, we collected data from a sample of 205 emerging adults. They were aged 18 to 30 years old. 69.75% were female, with a mean age of 20.47 and a standard deviation age of 3.17. They were recruited from psychology and sociology undergraduate university courses and were asked to complete an online self-report survey. Participation was voluntary, and students received course credit as well as bonus credit for their participation. Ethics approval was obtained from the Institutional Review Board at the university. The self-report measures within the questionnaire included the Adverse Childhood Experiences Questionnaire, or the ACE-Q. It consists of 10 yes-no items and examines adverse experiences prior to one's 18th birthday across the subscales of household dysfunction, physical abuse, sexual abuse, emotional neglect, physical neglect, and emotional abuse. Responses are then summed to create an ordinal variable representing the overall adverse childhood experiences score. We also used the Symptom Checklist 90, or SCL 90, consisting of 12 Likert items, specifically because we only used the somatization subscale, which evaluates symptomatic distress across the somatization subscale. We used the 5-facet mindfulness questionnaire, or FFMQ, consisting of 39 Likert items to measure the 5 dimensions of mindfulness, specifically conceptualizations of observing with awareness, describing with awareness, acting with awareness, and non-judging of inner experiences and non-reactivity to inner experiences. When we say inner experiences, it specifically means cognitions, emotions, feelings, and judgments about the self. For the results, we can see here in Figure 1 that there were interactions between ACEs and non-judging inner experiences measured by the FFMQ, and it predicted the somatic symptoms that participants had. All variables were standardized. The scale units of the X and Y axes are standard deviations of the measures. And it was found that the F statistic was 50.79 with a p-value of less than 0.001 and an R-squared adjusted of 0.34. A multiple regression was conducted with somatic symptoms as the outcome criterion variable and ACEs and FFMQ non-judging as the predictor variables. Results showed that the main effect of ACEs had a slope of 0.47, a standard error of 0.06, a t-statistic of 7.76, and a p-value of less than 0.001. The FFMQ non-judging was also significant with a slope of negative 0.21, a standard error of 0.06, a t-value of negative 3.4, negative 3.48, and a p-value of less than 0.001. Further regression analyses, adding the cross product of ACEs and non-judging to the previous regression model, revealed a significant interaction effect on somatic symptoms. And slope analysis indicated that high levels of ACEs were related to high levels of somatic symptoms, but this positive association varied with levels of the non-judging facet. Specifically, as the level of the non-judging facet increased, the slope of the regression line decreased and suggested a buffering role of the non-judging facet. And this can be seen in Figure 1 and in Table 1. So from those results, we can conclude that a greater number of ACEs experienced during childhood was positively associated with more somatic symptoms in emerging adulthood. Aspects of mindfulness, specifically non-judging of inner experiences, served as a buffer for the negative impacts on somatic symptoms. ACEs and traumatic events may be internalized as somatic symptoms, and previous research suggests that responses to internal experiences and external experiences, such as non-judgmental acceptance versus avoidance, are actually as key to negative outcomes as an actual experience is, which may explain why ACEs result in somatic symptoms and why mindfulness may mitigate the internalization or somatization with non-judgmental acceptance. These results highlight potential for mindfulness training, particularly on the dimension of non-judging inner experiences, as a means for prevention or intervention for somatic symptoms in emerging adults who experience childhood adversity while growing up.